What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another highly combustible reaction. We're going to be jumping into the last and fourth night on our night at the Rijksmuseum journey. It has been a spectacular journey of a spectacular building and a spectacular history. Like 100%, this has been intriguing, engaging the whole way through. We learned a lot. We're going to learn a lot when we take a visit for sure. This is one of the places on the list. Once again, this is coming at us via donation from Mikhail. Much love for sending this our way. This was a very, very cool thing. I'm actually kind of sad that it's ending, but there's more to follow when I actually get my backside to the Netherlands. Let's jump in. Let's check this out together. Let's roll.
The late 17th century, the stadtholder, the ruler of Holland, was the young William III. And this picture commemorates his marriage to his English cousin, Mary Stuart, daughter of James II. He was 14, she was 9.
Oh,
and they've
that's
just got
a mighty
married.
young age to
Now,
start.
you might think this was a happy ever after story, but in fact, one of the largest family spats in European royal history was about to erupt.
William was a Protestant, and
This man is a straight up storyteller. He keeps you like, was about to erupt. He keeps you on the edge of your seat. He knows how to tell a story. I'm enjoying this thoroughly.
About to erupt.
William was a Protestant, and when his English father-in-law James produced a new son and resolved to raise him as a Catholic, James's opponents in England appealed to William to expel the unreforming king. William set sail with a huge invasion force and seized the English crown, wife by his side. Here they are, the China versions of William and Mary. Now, William wasn't just a military man and a power broker. He was somebody who revelled in the trappings of wealth and grandeur, everything that came with his new role, both as Dutch stateholder and English king. He and his wife Mary were avaricious collectors of china, fine arts, painting, silver, furniture. And this section of the Rijksmuseum, to me, is almost like a cornucopia overflowing with examples of their rather flowery taste.
They did have some rather flowery taste.
Now this is William and Mary's bed. Rather lumpy looking, but how magnificent is that? It's an embroiderer's dream, or should that be embroiderer's nightmare? Just imagine how many hours went into the creation of this palace for sleeping. It's an interesting reminder that although we think of William as this great figurehead of Protestant culture, he was anything but a Puritan. Now, Dutch trade with the Far East is a vital part of the national story. Think of modern Holland's most famous export. Well, it was originally brought here from the Far East, the tulip. Now, the collections of the Rijksmuseum are full of the remains, the relics, the residue of this fruitful interchange between East and West. So much so that they've decided in the newly revamped version of the museum to dedicate an entire new space to their Asian collections, the Asian Pavilion.
They've just got all kinds of collections in this place. A literal...
The great Dutch trading adventure during the Golden Age took them all over the world, but it was their routes to the Far East that proved most profitable.
literally invaluable collection. That's craziness.
Such was their Eastern dominance, that for 2.5 centuries they were the only Europeans, the only outsiders, who traded with Japan. And I think if you want to enjoy the fruits of the truly extraordinary relationship between the Dutch and the Japanese, this is the best place to come. This, for me, is one of the great works of decorative art in the world. It's a samurai military commander helmet created in Japan around the late 16th century.
That is a hell of a helmet.
When is battle declared? Battle is declared, it commences at dawn. as the sun rises, here he is. He has to be visible. His troops number in thousands. There he is at the center of his army with the sun shining on this extraordinary helmet, turning him into a kind of beacon. What a thing. I don't reckon you want to be on the other side from him, but moving from war, power to luxury and conjugal bliss, isn't this a wonderful thing? It's the image of a crane, symbol of faithfulness, because the
Look
crane
at the
only had
details.
one partner. It's thought that this beautiful lacquer creation, which is also a box, was used to serve food at wedding celebrations. Look at the decoration, look at the skill, the subtlety. I mean, this is just such a wonderful collection of objects. I could pick anything, but this is, I love this.
Down to individual, like, feather outlines. Look at it.
So, Menno, how long have you been curator here?
16 years, actually.
So, basically, 2/3 of your professional career, the museum has been closed.
That's right, it's a funny chunk out of my career, but I think it's worth it.
I think a lot of people, well, particularly from Britain perhaps, may be slightly surprised to find such a wonderful Asian collection in the Rijksmuseum.
Isn't that nice? There is a very long-standing relation with Asia. The Dutch have been trading with Asia for 4 centuries, over 4 centuries. So, in a way, it's part of Dutch culture to be outward-looking and exploring. So, in a way, it's very appropriate to have this wide horizon in our National Museum in Amsterdam. It gives a special context. It's like a counterbalance. It balances out. It broadens the horizon of this otherwise quite narrow story of Dutch history and culture.
So when you look at those wonderful Dutch seascapes, those boats, and you think, well, where are they going?
Exactly.
And then you come here and you, this is where they were going.
This is the world they found.
These guys are fantastic. What are we looking at here?
We're looking at 2 14th century temple guardians.
Wow.
The wonderful thing about these pieces is that they're very clear in their message. These guys are here to keep evil out of the temple. It's pretty obvious.
They're fantastic. I love it. I mean, look at their muscles. They've been in the gym, these guys. I tell you what they remind me of, which I think is really interesting, that there's this sort of crossover between English medieval culture and Japanese medieval culture, because what did we put on our churches, or the Dutch as well, you know, gargoyles.
Yeah, gargoyles.
To ward off evil spirits.
Yes.
And these guys are really sort of Japanese gargoyles, aren't they?
Imagine being in the 14th century. There's not a lot of visual input. So
Yeah, you're coming down maybe from your farm or your mountain.
You gotta imagine how magnificent these things would have been in the time period that they were created. We just have, like, they're beautiful to us because they're old and they're still in one piece and they're just so well done. But imagine how hard it would have been to make it back then. Like, we're talking about no technology. We're talking about, like, stone and chisel type stuff. This is ridiculous. Like, to be able to see that back then and be like, that's something we want to take back on the ship. Like,
And you see this.
that must have been pretty stunning.
yeah, extremely.
Are they recently acquired?
Yes, 2007. And it's a real addition to our collection of sculpture.
There's just one favour that I wanted to ask you.
Sure.
Before we leave, is that I know might be a bit of an ask, but you know that helmet?
Yes.
The fantastic samurai helmet? Would it be possible before the museum opens?
You want to wear it?
You got it. Please.
Go on then.
Oh, what a guy.
Now, one of the great challenges for any national museum is to grow and expand with the passing of time. And when the Rijksmuseum closed 10 years ago, there was a huge gap in the way in which it told the story of the Dutch nation. It didn't have any objects at all dating from after the end of the 19th century. In other words, the whole of the 20th century was a void.
This is the new 20th century wing of the Rijksmuseum, a collection bravely started from scratch. New additions include their very first abstract works. They also, I think rightly, celebrate design and architecture.
Absolutely.
The modern Dutch are a nation of makers.
The design and architecture piece definitely fits in with the Dutch.
By completely reinventing the presentation of the collection, you also started to see where we have certain weaknesses, or what our strengths are in the collection, and what you would want to show the public when you reopen. So we started a collection of 20th century art as well.
That's setting the bar pretty high, because I imagine it's not that easy to get hold of a good Mondrian now.
Exactly. Well, it's a long-term project. We now have some fantastic loans, and maybe one day we will be able to buy one. But we don't...
Maybe the right person will leave you one.
Exactly, that's what we always hope. But we want it to be of the level of the 17th century, 18th century, 19th century collection, where again, placing the art in a historical context is essential.
I admire the museums facing up to the bleaker parts of modern Dutch history, especially the Nazi occupation.
So also amazingly
every object
intricate.
In this museum tells a story, but this object tells a particularly dark one. This chess set was presented by Himmler to the leader of the Dutch National Socialist movement in 1940. And what it represents is the territorial ambitions, the colonialist greed of the Nazi movement. The rooks are rocket launchers. Instead of a king and a queen, you've got bombs. Talk about war games. It's enough to send a shiver down your spine. I think the Rijksmuseum is more than a collection of objects. It's also a shrine to collective memory, and that's what this display case is all about. It houses the jacket worn by a German Jewish lady who'd emigrated to Holland to try and find safety and had in fact been confined within one of Hitler's death camps. She survived. And this jacket, she kept it with her till the end of her life.
Wow.
She meticulously repaired it, as if somehow she needed an object to remind her of the pain that she'd gone through and survived. And what's extraordinary about the story is that the jacket was gifted to the museum by the lady's daughter. But there's a twist to the story, which is that the mother had never told the daughter that she'd been in the camp.
Oh,
it was a complete surprise.
I can't imagine growing up never knowing and then finding out after the fact. I can imagine that would just be like a mind-blowing thing to think about, oh, what mom actually went through. Woo. That's intense. That's super intense.
Coming to Amsterdam this week, I don't think I've ever felt more intense civic, national excitement about the reopening of a museum.
I'm slightly nervous about it because the entire organisation, all the people working here have put their heart in making the most beautiful thing, and we hope, of course, that when the public enters in millions, they will all kind of think the same, but that you only know once they're there.
The closure of the Rijksmuseum was a big hole in the national life. We missed it. We've been missing it too long, and when it closed down, it was going to be closed for only a couple of years, but it's taken 10 years.
That's so crazy. 10 years of
It's been a bumpy road, indeed. I mean, you
a
run
10-year
two
gap
marathons.
in being able to learn about
is
your
the finish
history.
at the day of the opening, and the second marathon starts at the day of the opening. So we're ready, and we're all thrilled and ready to do our job.
Well, okay, it has been closed, but here we are.
Hooray!
Hip hip hurrah! Hip hip hurrah!
I'm so pleased that I can go back and see it all again. It's like old friends.
Now, I have to own up, I've been a bit tough on the modern Dutch in my time. I've accused them of being more interested in money than art, more concerned with import and export than Rembrandt and Vermeer, more concerned with selling tulips than enjoying the spiritual ecstasy of a sunflower painting by Van Gogh. But I have to say, the grand reopening of the Rijksmuseum has really made me think again, and I believe that now this place is open, the Dutch people truly will embrace it with all their hearts.
Tomorrow night here on BBC4, from the Beatles to the travelling Wilburys, Martin Scorsese's Portrait of an Artist. George Harrison, Living in the Material World. 2 parts, back to back, from 9 o'clock.
There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. The last night of the night at the Rijksmuseum tour. 100% beautiful. Like, I can't wait to get up there, to experience it, to learn a little bit more myself, to be in a room with items that are way older than even my country's history in some cases. So, like, seriously, definitely about that. This was a brilliant way to walk through it, a 4-piece journey. If you haven't checked out the other first 3, definitely go check those out. Hit the like button if you liked it, the dislike button if you disliked it. Go show the original poster some love. I'm going to leave their stuff down inside of the description. Check out one of my other videos up here. Subscribe right here if you want to see more content, possibly your content. I really do appreciate each and every one of you that's joined me for this. Until the next one, I'm highly combustible. You guys be happy, healthy, safe. I love you to the moon and back. Peace.